All right, with that, we welcome you to the Ferris Network on television, back here in D.C. tonight for a reality check. The coverage of last night's debate that has extended into today matches the debate itself. Completely biased in favor of Vice President Harris. Completely. And totally unfair to former President Trump. That doesn't mean Trump did well. Trump did not so well last night. 57.7 million people tuned in across six networks, 28% increase from the June debate between Biden and Trump. Not nearly as many people who tuned in for Trump-Clinton in 2016. Harris set the tone with the handshake. It was genius. And you could see Trump realizing it was genius right there. She wanted to be the gracious statesman, returning to the norms of debates, that moral high ground that Trump gave up a long time ago. Masterful stagecraft by Kamala Harris, likely planned by Team Obama. I woke up this morning in Philadelphia, turned on the TV, did my usual reading to find that Harris delivered the performance of a lifetime. A masterclass of baiting Trump, a symphony of democracy for undecided voters, and a knockout blow. And according to the coverage that I listened to and I read, Trump peddled in the lies of a tired old fool. This is over. David Smith wrote in The Guardian, prosecutor Kamala Harris put Trump on trial. Van Jones of CNN. Kamala Harris put Trump in his place. She baited him, and then she spanked him. There's a visual. Then there's Jeff Greenfield's piece in Politico. It was Donald Trump's night in the worst possible way. Then there was the TV commentary.
Oh, well, Kamala definitely won the debate. There's no question about that.
I think that Kamala Harris pitched a shutout on almost every subject I can think of.
Make no mistake about it. Trump had a bad night. He rose to the bait repeatedly when she baited him, and we heard so many of the old grievances that we'd long thought that Trump had learned were not winners politically.
Whoever did debate prep for Donald Trump should be fired. He was not good tonight at all.
It's like, well, Kamala Harris aborted a 78-year-old tonight.
Oh, the hilarity. As usual, the spin and coverage don't match reality. They never do, because the spin in reality comes from Washington and New York, not from real America. So the same media that was telling you all that, the pundits that were telling you that, it doesn't match the reporting of those networks and newspapers, from the New York Times and Reuters. Pundits said Harris won the debate. Undecided voters weren't so sure. Some undecided voters not convinced by Harris after the debate with Trump. A slew of voters told the Times how they felt about Harris's performance, and we're quoting now. She didn't kind of separate herself. She still has to impress me. I'm leaning more on his facts than her vision. There was nothing done by Harris that made me think she's better in any way. Reuters spoke to 10 undecided voters. 6 said they're backing Trump after the debate, 3 threw their support behind Harris, and just 1 isn't sure. That's hardly a knockout blow, a spanking in the words of Van Jones for Harris. A CNN poll showed Trump doing 2 points better on the economy and Harris 2 points worse after the debate. In other words, Trump gained ground on the issue voters say mattered the most. Conservatives spent last night and today complaining about the moderators. 2 things can be true at once, right? The moderators were grossly unfair. And when you're complaining about the refs, you lost. Every other network wants you to believe it's that simple. Donald Trump lost. But losing in the eyes of the media is very different than losing in the eyes of the voters. Chris Cillizza kicks off our coverage tonight. Journalist, senior advisor of the DGA Group. I guess midnight in Philadelphia.
It's a complicated name.
It's good to see you,
my friend.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
The race doesn't look that much different than it did last night.
So it's okay. I agree. I think it's funny. You said 2 things can be true, and while you were doing your open, I was thinking to myself, 2 things can be true. So my 2 things that can be true are, I believe Kamala Harris won the debate. It wasn't a knockout, but won the debate last night. And predictions that Donald Trump, I woke up this morning and I saw Kamala Harris destroys Donald Trump. the beginning of the end for Trump. It's like, man, we've been down this road, right? Like, I feel like it's like Charlie Brown, Lucy in the football. Like, he's not going to just go away. I think a lot of people on the left are waiting for this like magic wand to be waved for everyone's like, oh, wait a minute, I actually don't support Donald Trump anymore.
Who's supporting Donald Trump watched last night and said, oh, well, now I'm so aghast by his behavior from last night. And that's what Kamala Harris wanted, right? She wanted to create a moment where he just melted down and lost it. We have some of those clips. Take a look.
People start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that.
She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office.
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, in Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
We'll have more on what's actually happening in Springfield, Ohio, because it's interesting. But I've covered Donald Trump meltdowns before. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen last night.
No, I mean, you and I have talked about this both on air and off air. I mean, my working theory of Trump is that basically he's got like one setting, almost always, with very few exceptions. The car goes about 60, it's not going to go 30, and it's not going to go 90, right? And I think so he mostly did what he does. Like, this idea that he melted down feels to me like the same people who say, like, things are getting much worse for Donald Trump, he's panicking. I'm like, he's been like this since he came down the gold escalator in 2015. Not that much has changed. And to my mind, if you were for Donald Trump, there's nothing in that debate that's going to take you off that. If you're for Harris, there's nothing in that debate that's going to take you off it. And we talk about this all the time. If you are an undecided voter, the chances are high you probably didn't watch all 105 minutes of the debate. If you watched any, I'd be a little surprised. And so I just think making predictions about, oh, well, this will swing the race. Hillary Clinton, by my lights at least, won all three of the 2016 debates, and we know how that race turned out.
Well, you flip this around, right? And you hear 60 million people watch the debate. Okay, well, 100 million watched the Super Bowl, and 160 million will vote. So that means that the majority of American voters did not watch last night. If Donald Trump had stuck to what we're about to play the whole night, then we would be having a very different conversation, and that was his closing argument. Take a listen.
She's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it?
All right, so, Chris Christie said whoever prepared him for the debate should be fired. That was Donald Trump prepared himself for the debate.
I was going to say, Chris Christie knows better. Donald Trump doesn't really take a lot of instruction.
We all know that. But the flip side of this, right, is that Team Obama, who prepared Kamala Harris, did a phenomenal job of preparing her, right? But there was a danger that all of the rehearsed lines came off as rehearsed.
Yeah, so it's hard because sort of conventional wisdom congeals and then we move on. But what I would say is if you watch the first 15 minutes of that debate, which is probably, honestly, when viewership was the highest, right? 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Trump was pretty measured.
Up to 26 minutes.
Right. Yeah. He didn't sort of engage in a lot of ways that she was trying to bait him. And she was trying to stuff 15 talking points into a 2-minute segment. I just don't understand. I just want to return to that clip you played and what you said. Why was that said for the first time at 10? I looked at the clock at 10:45 p.m. Eastern time. That is the message. Joe Biden is not popular. Joe Biden's economic policies are not popular. Joe Biden's immigration policies aren't popular. And it's not like Kamala Harris is just a Democratic senator up here. She's the vice president for the last 3.5 years. It just seems very odd to me. I think that debate was as much about Trump's missed opportunities, and there were a bunch, to prosecute the case, to use Harris's words, to prosecute the case against her, than it was about how amazing she was. I thought she was totally competent, looked like she belonged on the stage.
She passed the presidential test.
But we don't need to. You and I talked about this one time before, this idea that the speech she gave at the convention was Obama-esque. Like, it was a totally fine speech. But Barack Obama is like a generationally gifted orator, whether you like him or you hate him. Let's not, I had a good pickup game 3 years ago. Nobody's saying Jordan-esque about me in basketball. Actually, it was probably 5 years ago, if I'm being honest.
Somehow my invitation for the PGA Tour has been missing for many, many years. There was a lot made about the moderators, and I've got a different theory about them. One of the things the moderators did, in addition to fact-checking Trump all the time, not fact-checking Kamala Harris, the questions to Kamala Harris were something like, why is it bad that Donald Trump is a racist? And the question to Trump is, why are you a racist? But they also saved Kamala Harris during this moment in the abortion discussion. Take a listen.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
answer the question, would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month,
not true.
And probably after birth.
And we cut this off, but immediately the moderator saved her, right? Because that was a difficult moment. I have a theory about this.
Okay.
Having the moderators be so far in the tank for Kamala Harris and so clearly anti-Donald Trump, maybe just saying they're so clearly anti-Donald Trump, it is bad because now the moderators become the issue in every debate going forward and picking them. Therefore, we have less debates.
Oh, I don't think we're going to have any more debates. Though I've been wrong before, but I don't think we're going to have any more debates.
But that's bad for democracy.
Totally agree. I'm going to disagree with you.
People do it all the time.
Well, it is your show. I absolutely think Trump got the far harder question. So I'm with you on that. No question. The only thing I will say is it bugs me a little bit when people say they fact-checked him 6 times and only her once or 0 times. They should have fact-checked her at least once. I get that. At the same time...
Hold on. They should have fact-checked her when she said things that were demonstrably untrue.
Absolutely.
Okay, and she did. It's not should have done one time. It's when you say things that are demonstrably untrue.
Right.
It's a
right.
standard.
It shouldn't be a box-checking exercise.
Right.
It should be a untrue exercise. But my only point is he has a long record of saying things that are not true. A longer record than she does. He says lots and lots of things that are not true. So I don't think you can say like, oh, well, I feel it was 6-2, and therefore he says more things historically and in that debate that were not true.
And about IVF, about Project 2025, about abortion. I can go down a whole slew of list of factual inaccuracies about her. I'm more interested in how do we get back to moderators that just give both sides the same fair questions, both sides, and ask tough follow-ups? Because there were a number of follow-ups that were asked to Trump, rightfully so. I think, you want to be president of the United States, you got to be able to hit big league pitching. But she was getting softballs.
So my view is the best, and they took a lot of criticism for this, the best approach is what CNN did, which is say, look, we are not really part of this. We're here. We're going to facilitate the discussion. But if you want to do fact-checking, that's on you, Joe Biden, or that's on you, Donald Trump. We're not going to do that really at all. They didn't do hardly any of it. And the left criticized them significantly. But in my mind, that's the better approach because otherwise it's like going to an NBA game, right? And the refs foul LeBron James out, right? Like no one wants to see the ref foul LeBron James out. They want to see LeBron James play the game. And I think that's part of the problem. As soon as we're talking about the moderators, that is not the right approach for the moderators. So you're going to get criticized either way. Why not let them litigate it, right? They're big boys and girls. You know what I mean? They're running for the most powerful office in the country.
Yeah. No, it's great. They should be able to.
Thanks,
my friend. Thank you as always.
Absolutely, of course.
Suddenly everybody cares, as we just talked to you about, Springfield, Ohio. And they care about it for one reason, because they can make Donald Trump look bad. We'll tell you why you really need to care about what's happening in the forgotten town of America. Suddenly the world wants to know a lot about what's happening in a town called Springfield, Ohio. You'd never heard of it, neither had I. For one reason, and one reason only. Because they can use Springfield, Ohio to make Donald Trump look bad. We're talking about a small town on I-70 between Dayton and Columbus. A couple exits on the highway. It is literally forgotten America. The unemployment rate is 30% more than the rest of Ohio. The poverty rate is almost double. The household income, 1/3 less. Nobody cared that Clark County, Ohio, where Springfield is, had a 52% increase in fentanyl and opioid overdose deaths. Nobody cared when an immigrant crashed into a school bus and killed a kid. Nobody cared when 20,000 migrants showed up in a town of 60,000 people. No town in America can support that. Springfield is going through it. Nobody cares. But last night, Donald Trump made the town a national story when he claimed Haitian immigrants in Springfield were kidnapping family pets for food.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
Cue the fact checkers, the headlines. Trump claims, debunked, on and on and on and on. Even the debate moderators went nuts. They had called the city manager. Are immigrants really kidnapping family pets? It seems far-fetched. Although at least one 911 call indicates they are catching and killing geese in town, that is, the Haitian immigrants, to grill up. Yes, whether Donald Trump says things that are true or not true are important, but in this case, it's really beside the point, isn't it? Because nobody cares about the fentanyl deaths. Nobody cares about the locals in poverty now unable to get food stamps. Nobody cares about the plight of hardworking Americans dealing with an exploding migrant population and all of the issues that come with it, unless they can make Donald Trump look bad. Got so bad, in fact, the governor had to send in the highway patrol.
I directed the Ohio State Highway Patrol through Colonel Charles Jones, who is here with me today, to surge troopers and patrol cars into Springfield to help the local Springfield Police Department. I am committing today a minimum, and I've instructed Dr. Vanderhoff this, a minimum of $2.5 million over the next 2 years to deal with the surge that we are seeing and the great demand for primary care.
Bill Monahan, Springfield, Ohio resident, is with us. He's been ringing the alarm bells about the problems in Springfield for years. Shame on us for not listening. We'll speak with him in a moment. First, NewsNation reporter Rich McHugh live in Springfield, Ohio, with the real problems facing this town. If we take Donald Trump figuratively and not literally on eating of pets, that perhaps is a metaphor for some really serious problems that are happening in Springfield, Rich?
Yeah, 100%, Leland. I mean, this immigration situation here is affecting nearly every aspect of life from what I can tell and from what the residents are telling me here in Springfield, Ohio. I'm here at a jobs and kind of family center here in Springfield. This was packed with a line all day. It was primarily Haitian immigrants, like literally all day long. I couldn't get anyone to speak to me because they don't speak English. But the services here, they're really under strain. It's the infrastructure. The accidents on the roads are skyrocketing. People are really concerned about that. I was told there were 3 alone today. The crime rate, if you look at the FBI data, the crime rate from 2019 to 2022 is up 142%. Residents say that is during the time when this kind of influx has come. Residents are saying, like, look, the local town is not listening to us. The state is not listening to us. The feds certainly are not listening to us. I spoke with one resident, Cindy Pack, earlier this morning. She said she's fit to be tied. She's a lifelong resident here. She said across the street from her apartment complex, Haitian immigrants have put up kind of a makeshift garage, like an auto garage, auto body, where they're fixing a lot of these cars that are being kind of damaged around the city. She says she's complained to police. Police have said there's nothing they can do about it. She says it's going all day long and all night. Let's take a listen.
They come in towing them on a rope at night, things like that. So, that's not right.
So this isn't the community that you grew up in or have lived in your whole life?
Not even close. The commissioners, attorney general, all this stuff, most of them won't call you back. They don't want to talk about it. And the city, they'll just lie to you, flat out lie to you. They'll tell you that there's really not a bad problem here. There's an extremely bad problem here. And it's only getting worse. And I fear what's going to happen next because the people are mad.
Yeah, people are mad. I've talked to a number of them today, like Cindy, who are saying, look, sure, the national media is here. The focus is on this because we're talking about this, because Donald Trump is talking about it. But the issues are going to remain. They've been here for a long time. And when you all leave, we have to deal with this stuff, and it's not changing. The problems are not going away. They're only going to get worse, Leland.
Well, to be fair, right, the media leaves and the problems are always left behind. As far as you can tell, right, there's this fascination with whether or not Donald Trump was correct specifically about the kidnapping of pets. But there's also this story, and this is how it began, that the Haitian immigrants have been grabbing geese and duck and lots of other birds and cooking them. Here's one 911 call that came into Clark County. Take a listen.
Clark County Communications. I'm riding on the trail going to my orientation for my job today, and I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand.
How many geese did they have?
They each had 1.
All right, so there at least something is there. Rich, I'm always skeptical when the herd of media instantly shoots something down and says, oh, this is misinformation. I'm old enough to remember when Hunter Biden's laptop turned out to be real, but you couldn't say that. You've been around the town now for a few hours. Are you hearing enough stories from residents about what's happening to say there's probably a lot of problems that we don't fully understand?
100%. And I'd be the first to say, look, everybody's saying like these things are false. Residents I've talked to are saying, look, they're not false. They're just unsubstantiated. They may not be borne out over time. They may not be proven. That's part of the issue. But residents are saying, look, we're not really buying this narrative from this city outright because they haven't been truthful with us all along. And there are real problems here. And the city itself is not addressing them the way the residents really want and need.
Well, now there's a focus on Springfield, Ohio. Rich, thank you very much. Bill Monahan, as we said, has been trying to ring the alarm bells for a long time, online and other places we haven't been listening. Bill, we're listening now. No one wants their city to be focused on by the world because of bad things in it. But at some point, is this kind of attention the only hope you guys have?
Well, yeah, Leland, thanks for your time. I do think if we are going to get any kind of change, it will take national attention. I'm not really confident or optimistic that that'll happen in time for our town. But by people seeing what's happening here, they might be able to, gird their own towns against this sort of thing happening. It's been in the works for a long time, at least 10 years. And so you want to head it off long before now.
Yeah, benefit rolls swell in Springfield. New arrivals of Haitian origin have pushed benefit rolls for federally funded programs like Medicaid. April 2022, you can see it was about 0, a couple hundred people. By July of 2024, so a little more than 2 years, it was 8,000. That is an exponential increase in the number of people, especially in a town of 6,000. That's more than 10% of the population there. Much of the focus is on the attacks on immigrants is racist, or it is xenophobic, or these are people who are just backward whites in rural America who don't want immigrants, and shame on them. Is that what this is about to you?
No, I don't think so. I think that is used as to silence people, that accusation. I think people's primary concerns, I do think that bus accident in which that young boy was killed kind of catalyzed a lot of people to realize this problem has gotten a lot worse than we realized. But most people's concerns are, come back to those economic concerns. Rents have skyrocketed because of this influx of well-subsidized immigrants or migrants, and other concerns, for driving. That's not based on.
You say well subsidized. So there's a lot of money that the immigrants are bringing in to an area that was pretty inexpensive to live, and therefore locals now can't afford housing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's one of the primary things I became aware of. I didn't realize the connection, but a couple of years ago, rent started skyrocketing 40, 60%. And I knew a lot of people who couldn't find homes in town and still can't. They're doubling up with family or living outside of town. And even those options are drying up as this demand on the housing market spreads to the rural areas and smaller towns of the county.
Well, Bill, the one thing we learn when we find a story like this, highlighted for whatever reason, but in this case because of the presidential debate, you all aren't alone, right? There's dozens, if not hundreds of Springfields around America facing these kinds of issues. And they're important stories to tell. We'll keep at it. You keep talking about it, too. That's how we found you and how we really realized what the real issues there were.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for your time. I hope you can bring this information to a broader audience because people need to know for sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right. Taylor Swift. Heard of her? Not your grandkids have. They say childless cat ladies. She says the childless cat ladies must unite behind Kamala Harris. Why Republicans should be thrilled at Swift's endorsement.
We admire Taylor Swift's music, but I don't think most Americans, whether they like her music or fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who I think is fundamentally disconnected from the interests and the problems of most Americans.
So last night at the debate, we were sitting there, everybody was debating who won, on and on and on, talking about the moments. And then all of a sudden it came out that Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris. It was the most unexpected thing to come out of last night by far. And look, whoever choreographed it deserves a raise. Sure seemed Team Obama-esque in timing and stagecraft, kind of like how they deal with George Clooney on some issues. And Swift signed the endorsement, Taylor Swift, childless cat lady, a nod to J.D. Vance's comments that have gone over like a ton of bricks. Pretty swiftly, pun intended. The media began fawning over the endorsement.
This is, I think, the most important celebrity endorsement we've ever seen in a presidential campaign, especially because it is so close.
Taylor Swift's fandom is made up of her fans and their parents, their moms and their dads.
If she makes a difference, even on the margins, in a race like this, that is a huge difference.
Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee, the state of Taylor Swift's primary residence. You're going to tell me that one of your own constituents doesn't matter.
Hey, man, haters going to hate. What can I say? That's from one of her songs.
I'm impressed now. I don't have no lyrics here. You don't think this matters, right?
I really don't. She's obviously a very gifted, talented young lady, and she has a huge following. And you see this all the time. I can remember when MTV did Rock the Vote. And then after it was over, they did research and found out the people that rocked the vote didn't even vote.
So they say they registered to vote, yeah. So 283 million Instagram followers, sold 4.3 million tickets, 152 tour dates sold out, 50 times platinum, got 27 million extra people to watch the NFL. She is the 9th best-selling artist of all time. I'm going to ask you a question because I already know what you think about at least one of these things. Which matters less? The Taylor Swift endorsement or the Dick Cheney endorsement of Kamala Harris?
That's a toss-up, brother. That's a good one.
It's a weird world we live in, right?
It's a crazy world. I mean, I guess if your stock portfolio depends on wars, then you're going to go with Dick Cheney. If you're tied to the entertainment industry, you're going to go with Miss Swift. But I'm not going to say anything bad about her. She can do what she wants to. She's created her own image, and she was country. Of course, I liked her better as country because We all did. This is what I thought was interesting, though.
Of all people, Abby Phillips of CNN rang a little bit of an alarm bell about this. Take a listen.
The one contrarian view I will say is that in this moment, the thing the Harris campaign needs perhaps the most is to figure out how to reach men. They've got to figure it out here in Pennsylvania. They've got to figure out how to reach black men. And I'm not sure Taylor Swift helps them with that.
I haven't been to a Taylor Swift concert. That doesn't seem to be a primary demographic at Taylor Swift concerts, but I'm turning this around on you. The people that Donald Trump needs to reach are young white women, specifically young single white women.
If I was Donald Trump, I'd get out and try to get hold of Morgan Wallen, who is from the 2nd Congressional District, as well as Kenny Chesney. So I would say either one of them would be.
That's going to help with young white women. Look, we can all.
I think so.
Donald Trump's got a problem with single young white women, right?
Right.
Okay. So Taylor Swift doesn't help with that, this endorsement. How does Donald Trump deal with this? And it's a real issue. She signed it, childless cat lady, for a reason, because it's something that young women don't like being called. How does he deal with that problem?
Well, you counteract it. I think you got to look at the real numbers, though, of young people, unfortunately, just do not vote. I can remember a situation where a group of college students were denied access to the polls, and they went to court, and the judge literally said, if y'all will just walk across the street and get registered, you can vote. And guess what? Half the people in the courtroom walked over and registered, and the other half didn't. I can remember in my own Senate district, state Senate, when I was a state senator, a couple of senators prior had registered, I think, over 1,000 UT students in Knoxville there. And I believe at the Fort Sanders precinct, it was in the double digits, the number of people that actually voted. So young people just aren't voting. They're not interested. We're not striking a chord with them. Maybe Taylor Swift will strike a chord. I honestly hope more young people vote. I wish they'd get involved because, we're doing a pretty good job of wrecking this country. And maybe the young folks can. Maybe
the young folks have a few ideas.
Maybe they do. Maybe they do. I hope they do, because we're going to lose it all if we do not get.
You're counting on us, right? For Medicare and your Social Security.
Well, I'm older than you, brother.
That's what I'm saying. You're counting on me.
I just turned 60 2 weeks ago.
You're counting on me.
I didn't get a present. Gloria Vanderbilt says you can deliver up into the next month. I realize they're back in Tennessee, so up to September 25th.
Check your mailbox.
I will, brother.
Right.
Thank you.
Donald Trump refused to look at Kamala Harris all night. The message he was really sending to Kamala Harris, and frankly, to all of America, and why that could cost him the election. Minutes of the debate, Donald Trump held his composure. Then Kamala Harris chummed the waters with bait he just could not refuse.
And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
You must wonder if he practiced that response in the mirror. With us now, body language behavior expert, former Army interrogator Greg Hartley. I'm looking at his book. I have it on my Kindle. Most dangerous business book ever read. I would suggest everyone read it. You won't be as good as Greg, but it'll give you a leg up. Greg, I don't want to say we don't need you, but the expressions by Donald Trump didn't leave a lot to be thought about or misunderstood.
No, let me give you what you're seeing, though. I'll put words for it. When a person's moving their eyes down and around, down to that lower level, he's going to internal voices. He's thinking, what is she talking about? And he goes to emotional accessing over on his right. And when I interrogate a person, I want to get them in that space because it means I've taken over their space and I can control them. She, on the other hand, is doing that single hand, driving her point home, and then the televangelist to drive her point, and it's getting to him. You can see it. And you see that disapproval.
So in other words, when you say that she accessed a dark psychological spot for Donald Trump.
Well, she certainly angered him. Let's leave it at that. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Now to Kamala Harris reacting when Donald Trump called her and her father a Marxist.
In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy, but If she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well.
Shows a lot of coaching, Leland. That's it. When your person does this, we coach people to do. I do it myself. We coach people all the time. If you put your hand here, you can put pressure on muscles and release, pressure on muscles and release. And it's an adapter. We call that a release of nervous energy, but it's also an easy way for a person to self-comfort. She's also wooden. She's braced, and her mouth is open. What we look for is change in body language. And if she can hold off change by holding her mouth poised instead of going for air when she's in a bind, we can't read it. So somebody's coached her pretty well.
Well, she spent 5 days at debate camp, so there was that. A lot has been made, and I think rightly so, about the handshake, right? That they walked out. 2020, nobody shook hands because of COVID. And Kamala Harris walked over to Donald Trump. Remember, Trump and Biden did not shake hands. I'm going to give you my assessment, and then you tell me why I'm wrong. Everyone's saying that Donald Trump was trying to show her contempt and was sort of angry when she walked over. I think he figured out he'd been had and that he made a mistake by not walking over to her, by not meeting her halfway. They'd obviously discussed it in Team Trump and decided not to shake hands. And he realized, masterful of television arts that he is, that that was a mistake.
I think you're right. I think that's a mistake, and he realized it. I don't think it had more to do with her. I think it had more to do with the situation. When we talk about, there's only one thing you can see in people, that's contempt, and that's a rise of one half of their face. And when it's toward a person, it is contempt. When it's toward a situation, it's disdain. Hard to tell the difference, and I think you're right. I think it's disdain to the situation.
All right. Greg, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Real pleasure. See you again.
All right, yeah, for sure. Democrats popped the champagne last night. They thought Kamala Harris nailed it. What Kamala Harris can't do in the next 55 days. There's one thing she can't do to screw it up. Democrats and their pundit friends believe Kamala Harris had the night of her life last night. She wants another debate. They're jubilant. Couldn't get any better. Yet a new CNN poll shows a majority of debate watchers say the debate won't impact their vote. 82% say it does not affect their choice for president. 14% said it made them reconsider. Only 4% say it changed their minds. Minnesota Congressman, former presidential candidate himself, Dean Phillips, is here. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Leland.
Did we see last night the ill effects of Kamala Harris not having been forced to go through the primary that you wanted Democrats to go through?
Well, it was pretty clear, I have been for a long time, that I want to see competition. I still would have liked, even after Joe Biden stepped down, to see Democrats inspire a competition. But I thought it was quite remarkable that in 72 hours that Kamala Harris consolidated Democratic support in the way she did. And I'll tell you, having visited with a lot of my colleagues last night, we were cautiously optimistic about last night's debate. Most of us were pretty blown away by her performance.
Blown away. Okay.
So very objectively. Okay. And equally surprised by his pathetic performance. So those are my two truths.
As we started off the show, lots of things can be true at once. Yeah. That the deck was stacked against him with the moderators, and at the same time, he didn't perform so well. Here was Megyn Kelly on that issue. Take a listen.
She was permitted to come out there and say that she hadn't reversed herself on fracking. Lindsay Davis, Miss Fact Checker, nothing. She moved on. She gave this long answer about how she'd never changed her position on fracking. There was no follow-up. She was also permitted to say that she hadn't changed her position on gun buybacks, mandatory gun buybacks.
For swing voters that this is going to come down to, those things matter that she didn't have to answer for. I'm going to turn it around. Yeah. Did the moderators do her a disservice by not pushing her harder?
Well, first of all, the moderators should push. And look, Donald Trump lies all the time. And for those who are saying it was unfair, the cards were stacked against him, I mean, come on. When you lie the way he does, I think he should be called out. Do I believe they could have challenged her on those two issues? Yes, there's absolutely.
Well, also challenge her on the fact that she said she wants criminal aliens to have sex change operations paid for at taxpayer expense, on and on.
At the end of the day, I mean, we know this, Leland, people just want a politician to acknowledge. Look, we're human. We make mistakes. We change. When we learn, we change. I wish they would push, and it would serve her well to say, look, I've changed my position over the years, rather than ignore or deflect.
Well, she says, though, she hasn't, right? Because she wants to have it both ways. My values haven't changed, but now I'll say this. I'm seeing your eyes move a little bit. The body language expert would have fun with that.
I should be more stoic. Look, we live in a political era where people modify their positions all the time. Look, Donald Trump, he wrote her a campaign check, for goodness sakes. He was very pro-choice, and now he's not. So look, people change. Last night, though, was a real representation of two extraordinarily different people. I was eager to walk on the limb and call out my own party as I thought they were hiding the truth about Joe Biden. And it cost me a lot. You know that. The fact of the matter is now it's the other side's turn. Donald Trump is going to be 82 years old. He's clearly losing a step. And the whole nonsense last night about dogs and cats. I mean, this is a man who's got to make decisions about nuclear war, about treaties with foreign nations, and lead this country. And he was serious about that last night. So at the end of the day, I think it was actually a pretty interesting debate. I think the moderators did a better job than most have done. But at the end,
really? Come on!
I was pretty impressed, actually. I was pretty impressed.
Well, as a Democrat, I'm not surprised. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
We're going to play back and forth. We just have a few minutes. Soundbite: Kamala Harris saying she owns a gun, and then at one point her saying there has to be mandatory buybacks. Take a listen.
This business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
Okay.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program. It's got to be smart. We got to do it the right way.
Yeah, a mandatory buyback program, and I'm a gun. Nobody wants to take guns away. Which is it? You got 20 seconds.
Look, it's a little incongruent. I have to say that. The truth is, I don't know Democrats who want to take. I mean, I know a few, but I don't think she wants to take guns away. I think that
she told us she did.
But the notion of a mandatory buyback, of course, that seems a little incongruent. And look, to your point, yes, the moderators should have challenged her on some of those questions. I think that's totally reasonable. I don't think they were unfair because I think Trump lies a lot more. But yes, that's what I think voters deserve, and I think it's shameful that we might just have one debate.
That's the real
in this whole time, and that to me is the issue, more, not less.
Agreed there. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you very much. Cuomo, big show coming up as he breaks down whether there will be another debate.